Have you ever wondered what really happens behind the polished facade of a famous show business family? And how one individual, lost in the shadow of legendary siblings, navigates a maze of ambition, control, heartbreak, and personal reinvention? Today we delve into the life of Toya Jackson, the fifth child of Joe and Catherine Jackson, whose journey from shy youngster in Gary, Indiana, to global celebrity encompasses both stunning achievements and deeply troubling struggles. Toya Jackson was raised in the same high-pressure environment that produced the Jackson 5 Janet Jackson and, of course, the pop phenomenon Michael Jackson. She was initially shy, then discovered her passion for performing, released music, broke away in a sensational rift from her family, endured a turbulent marriage that nearly destroyed her, and later found renewed purpose by returning to the public eye on her own terms, though not without accumulating scars and regrets. Stick with us because the real story behind Toya's ups and downs might surprise you in ways you never expected. For those who grew up following the Jackson family's trajectory, Toya Jackson was something of a curiosity. While Michael was the megastar, and Janet later emerged with a string of chart-topping albums, Toya's career always seemed to hover on the fringes of major success, never quite achieving the same heights, yet refusing to fade quietly into obscurity. Like many of her siblings, she was born in Gary, Indiana, on May 29, 1956, and lived in the cradle of a big family environment that was shaped by both fierce ambition and the rigors of Joe Jackson's management style. Joe's approach with his children was famously strict. Everything revolved around discipline, perfection, and the single-minded pursuit of fame. By the time Toya reached her teens, music was like a second language to her, though she initially displayed a more retiring nature, overshadowed by her flamboyant brother's blossoming success as the Jackson 5. Her mother, Catherine Jackson, became involved with the Jehovah's Witnesses in the mid-1960s. That religious affiliation soon pulled the rest of the family along as well, including Toya, who took its teachings to heart for years to come. However, being raised in a large devout household did not always mesh seamlessly with life under the bright lights of show business. And from a young age, Toya balanced her own desire for normalcy. She once considered becoming an attorney specializing in business law, with her father's insistence that she join the family performing juggernaut. In 1972, at the age of 16, Toya began stepping into the limelight, dancing on stage with her brothers in Las Vegas. That was the same year she fully came under the Jehovah's Witness umbrella. This intersection of show business glamour, paternal oversight, and religious devotion adds layers to Toya's early personal development. While many teenagers are exploring their identities in conventional high schools and suburban neighborhoods, Toya was traveling across cities for performances, following her father's every instruction and representing a star-studded name that came with its own built-in expectations. She attended Cal Prep School in Encino, Los Angeles, California, and graduated in 1974. For a time, she did try going to college, imagining a different path, one in which she used her intelligence and quiet determination in the courtroom. But her father would not entertain that plan. He insisted that she must continue in show business, just like the rest of the family, and so she complied. One must understand that from the outside, the Jacksons in the 1970s were riding a wave of unprecedented popularity. Michael, still a teenager, was turning heads as both vocalist and performer. The Jackson 5 had a string of hits. Meanwhile, Janet, still a young girl at the time, was just beginning to show early signs of the superstar she would become. Toya herself gained some variety show experience with her siblings Rebby and Janet when they appeared in all 12 episodes of The Jacksons, a CBS TV variety program that ran in 1976 and 1977. These appearances gave viewers glimpses of a close-knit yet highly choreographed family dynamic, carefully stage-managed by Joe. In 1978, LaToya lived temporarily in New York with her brother Michael while filming The Wiz, the Motown Tin Man retelling of The Wizard of Oz that famously starred Diana Ross, Michael Jackson, and others. It was the first time that LaToya or Michael had lived outside the family's Encino home as adults. Even then, brother and sister stayed deeply connected, and neither permanently moved out of Encino until well into their 30s. LaToya's reticence, combined with the powerful gravitational pull of the Jackson family orbit, delayed her attempts to forge an identity separate from the Jackson brand. Perhaps it's telling that her dating life in this period involved a few known names, Diana Ross's brother Chico Ross and David Guest among them. She also dated Bobby DeBarge for a time. Indeed, it was rumored that the 1979 Switch hit I Call Your Name was inspired by her. Yet none of these relationships significantly diverted her from the path Joe was laying out for her. In the late 1970s, there was a flirtation with a possible sister group. Rebby, LaToya, and Janet tried forming a trio, but creative differences halted the project before they ever performed live. Each sister gravitated toward her own musical direction. Rebby found moderate success in adult contemporary and R&B hits. Janet eventually exploded into superstardom with Control and Rhythm Nation, and LaToya took a more offbeat path, churning out albums that sometimes had moderate traction, but rarely soared to the top of the charts. In 1980, LaToya's self-titled debut album hit the market. She notably insisted that only her first name, LaToya, be emblazoned on the cover, seeking a distinct identity apart from the Jacksons. The move made sense. Overshadowed by her powerhouse siblings, she wanted to be recognized on her own merit. The album's first single, If You Feel the Funk, made a small splash, climbing into the top 40 of the U.S. R&B chart. Her second single, Nighttime Lover, was produced by Michael, who also contributed backing vocals and co-wrote the song with her. In turn, LaToya provided the opening scream for the Jacksons' 1980 track, This Place Hotel, originally titled Heartbreak Hotel, and even contributed backing vocals to Michael's 1983 mega-hit PYT on his Thriller album. These inter-family collaborations reflected the complicated synergy between them. LaToya might not have soared to the same heights, but her siblings recognized her talent and included her in their own projects. LaToya's debut album reached a modest number 116 on the U.S. Billboard 200, and even hit number 26 on the R&B albums chart. Then in 1981, she released a follow-up, My Special Love. Singles like Stay the Night and I Don't Want You to Go found some traction, maintaining her presence in the industry. However, the big pop breakout moment continued to elude her. Then in 1984, she released Heart Don't Lie, which many critics have deemed her best work. The title track gave her her biggest Billboard Hot 100 success, peaking at number 56, while singles such as Betcha Gonna Need My Lovin', Hot Potato, and a cover of Prince's Private Joy showcased her style. During the Heart Don't Lie era, there was even a near-miss scenario with a track called Reggae Nights, co-written by LaToya and Amir Bayan. That track did not appear on her album, but Jimmy Cliff's version became an international reggae smash, earning a Grammy nod. All of these small, almost but not quite moments came to symbolize LaToya's career, close enough to mainstream success to notice, but never crowned as a marquee pop star. Despite these near misses, LaToya found ways to boost her profile. In 1984, she licensed her name for a David Lawrence for LaToya fashion line, agreeing in a 3-year contract to wear only David Lorenz leather and suede for public appearances. She then became part of Nikon camera commercials, became a spokesmodel for Mahogany Image Cosmetics, and launched her own fragrance called Toya. By leveraging her family name and her own rising brand recognition, she made moves that signaled a new entrepreneurial spirit. Throughout the mid-1980s, she continued shaping a public image that was vibrant, stylish, and distinctly different from what the public might have expected from a Jehovah's Witness background. She also took part in the philanthropic phenomenon We Are the World in 1985, joining a host of celebrities in recording the iconic famine relief single for Ethiopia. That same year, she featured in the Stop the Madness anti-drug music video. Around this time, she released Baby Sister, which received an Outstanding Song Award at the 16th Annual World Popular Song Festival in Japan. However, label problems emerged. By 1986, Private Eye Records declared bankruptcy, leaving her album Imagination poorly promoted and overshadowed by the unfortunate timing. She still found a few collaborative opportunities, including duets with Cerrone, Oops Oh No, and Jed, Yes I Am Ready. Then came 1987, an inflection point in Toya's personal and professional life. Jack Gordon entered the scene, hired as a co-manager by her father Joseph. Before long, Gordon usurped Joseph's role entirely, taking the reins of Toya's career. The public soon noticed a dramatic shift. Suddenly, Toya's persona grew markedly sexier, a stark break from her more reserved Jehovah's Witness upbringing. This transformation eventually resulted in Toya being disfellowshipped by her faith. The same year, she moved out of the Jackson family's Encino compound under contentious circumstances. The patriarch, Joe, was furious at losing control over his daughter's career. Toya, for her part, saw it as a chance to determine her own image after years of taking orders. Late 1988 saw the release of Toya, an album featuring You're Gonna Get Rocked Like I Do, and a track titled Just Say No for the Reagan administration's anti-drug campaign. She collaborated with Full Force for 4 tracks and with the renowned Stock Aitken Waterman team for 3. Although the album never reached blockbuster status, it represented her attempt to update her sound while forging an edgier identity. In March 1989, Toya posed topless for Playboy, an unthinkable step given her upbringing. She described it as an act of freedom aimed at showing her parents that their control no longer extended over her. Scandal erupted, and she repeated the move in November 1991 to promote her autobiography, eventually even starring in a Playboy video. Many viewed this as Toya's bid for independence, but it occurred under the watchful direction of Jack Gordon, who some say was pushing her to exploit her image for financial gain. In 1989, Toya began recording her 6th album, Bad Girl. Around that time, she organized a live pay-per-view event, a sizzling spectacular, from Bally's Theater in Reno on September 5, 1989. This show was meant to demonstrate her capacity as a solo entertainer. Shortly after the concert, Toya and Gordon married in Nevada, sparking immediate controversy. She would later claim that Gordon had forced her into the marriage for her own protection, though from whom remains an open question. Within 6 months, she requested an annulment while in Rome. His violent reaction to that request, slamming her head repeatedly against a hotel room table, marked the beginning of a harrowing chapter of physical, psychological, and financial abuse that endured for nearly a decade. What followed is one of the darkest episodes in the entire Jackson family saga. Gordon seized complete control of Toya's life, confiscating her passport, monitoring her phone calls, even ensuring bodyguards surveilled her every move. He forced her to distance herself from family members, something that seemed plausible given the fractious relationships that already existed within the Jacksons. By the early 1990s, LaToya was utterly isolated. Under duress, she wrote an autobiography, LaToya, Growing Up in the Jackson Family, which leveled disturbing accusations of physical abuse against her father, Joe. At various points, Gordon pressured her to disparage her own siblings publicly. Most famously, in December 1993, he paraded LaToya before reporters in Tel Aviv to claim she believed the child abuse allegations made against Michael could be true. Later, she recanted these statements, revealing that Gordon had threatened to kill both Michael and Janet if she disobeyed his demands. This oppressive environment sparked a downward spiral in LaToya's career. Gordon booked her for dubious gigs, such as representing the Psychic Friends Network or performing in seedy clubs. At first, in 1990, there had been glimmers of bigger opportunities. She participated in the San Remo Music Festival, where she sang You and Me, an English version of the Bella siblings' Verso Lignoto. She also signed with German label BCM, which then folded before her album could be released. Signing with Dino Records led to the 1991 release No Relations, an album that took on house and funk influences. Though it featured a Dutch top 25 single sex box, it failed to spark any major commercial impact. Personal scandal overshadowed any music she released. Then came the ill-fated stint at the Moulin Rouge in Paris. In 1992, she signed a contract to star in a show called Formidable, set to earn a record-breaking $5 million. Yet she abruptly left halfway through her year-long contract and owed the cabaret $550,000 in damages. This fiasco further tarnished her reputation and drained her finances. Desperate to escape Gordon, LaToya occasionally tried reaching out to her family or others for help. In 1992, while filming an exotic club tour special in Minneapolis, she attempted to see her sister Janet, who was in town recording an album with Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. It was a risky move, given that Gordon had isolated her so thoroughly. The physical abuse intensified. In 1993, in their New York home, Gordon beat her so brutally that she lost consciousness, describing to the media how he believed she was dead and even called friends to say, "I killed her." She sustained injuries requiring stitches in her mouth and multiple contusions over her body. Gordon claimed self-defense. The police, evidently unfamiliar with the severity of the situation or swayed by Gordon's manipulation, released him. For years, LaToya lived in constant fear. The financial ruin was nearly as bad as the physical terror. By the mid-1990s, she filed for bankruptcy to address the enormous debts accrued under Gordon's mismanagement, including the $550,000 owed to the Moulin Rouge. Her career attempts during this time reflect the chaos. She performed at Poland's Sopot International Song Festival in 1993, then released a step aerobics exercise video called Step Up Workout. In 1994, capitalizing on her name recognition, Playboy produced a celebrity centerfold video featuring her, which sold a respectable 50,000 copies. Next came two music projects, one a country album From Nashville to You, and another of Motown covers, Stop in the Name of Love. But none of these efforts restored her credibility or financial security. Gordon, becoming more brazen, even planned to coerce her into pornographic films, according to LaToya. That horror finally galvanized her to act. One day, in a small window of opportunity while Gordon was away, she called her brother Randy Jackson, who flew to New York, facilitated her escape, and whisked her to Las Vegas to file for divorce in 1997. She sued Gordon for domestic violence under the Violence Against Women Act, changing her name legally to LaToya Jackson, dropping her prior married name, Gordon, and reclaiming her identity. Free at last, she sought to rebuild her life. But that rebuilding process was neither swift nor simple. She severed ties with Gordon, ended her estrangement from her family, and returned to the Jackson family home in Havenhurst, asking her parents for forgiveness and understanding. She recognized that Joe's parenting style might have been strict, but she also acknowledged that her vulnerability had allowed Gordon to exploit her for nearly a decade. In the late 1990s, LaToya found herself alone for the first time, living in her own space and scarcely daring to step outside. Distrustful of the press, anxious about Gordon's possible reappearance, and traumatized from abuse, she had little idea how to rehabilitate her image or finances. Gradually, she began performing in Europe and South America, small concerts, private events, just enough to repay the massive debts Gordon had run up in her name. Then came September 11th, 2001, a watershed moment for the entire United States. For LaToya, it sparked a wave of new perspective. Feeling moved by the tragedy, she composed Free the World, a song promoting unity and hope. She performed it for friends, whose positive reception encouraged her to continue writing. That creative spark culminated in a new album, Starting Over. This project symbolized her emotional rebirth, a longing to reintroduce herself to the world on her own terms. In March 2003, she reappeared in the media spotlight on Larry King Live, captivating so many viewers that CNN's phone lines jammed for hours. It was King's highest-rated broadcast in 3 years, a testament to the public's fascination with the Jackson family drama and curiosity about LaToya's experiences. By 2004, she released Just Wanna Dance, the lead single from the forthcoming Starting Over. Cleverly, she used the nickname Toy on promotional copies to circumvent possible prejudice from radio DJs who might snub anything from LaToya Jackson. The track became a moderate club hit, peaking at number 13 on the Billboard Hot Dance chart. Free the World also garnered attention. While these successes weren't earth-shattering, they gave her the confidence to push forward. She then intended to do a final version of the album, but decided to re-record the entire project with new songs and fresh production in 2006, fueling anticipation among her loyal fans. In parallel, Jack Gordon had died in 2005. That event, ironically, granted her an additional measure of peace. She was free to speak openly about his brutality, ensuring that no legal threat or intimidation would stifle her. She even dispatched an investigator to confirm that he truly was dead, given Gordon's track record of shady dealings and manipulative stunts. Reclaiming her narrative, she recanted the damaging accusations she once made against Michael, accusations that had been coerced from her by Gordon's threats. In the mid-2000s, American television networks began featuring her in reality shows. VH1 admired her as someone who'd withstood extreme circumstances, family conflict, an abusive husband, public mockery, and was still fighting forward. In January 2007, CBS premiered Armed and Famous, featuring LaToya and other celebrities training as volunteer police officers in Muncie, Indiana. She overcame a deep-seated fear of cats in the show, apparently rooted in a childhood experience of witnessing a vicious cat attack. Though the show was short-lived, it underscored her willingness to step outside her comfort zone, face phobias, and expand her public identity. She recorded a tie-in single, I Don't Play That, but it fizzled when the show was canceled. Undeterred, she continued forging a niche in reality TV. In 2009, she joined Celebrity Big Brother UK, the second Jackson to appear on the show, Jermaine having appeared in 2007. She was evicted fourth, but earned sympathy for her unassuming manner and open discussions about her past trauma. During this time, she planned to unveil the final iteration of starting over, but heartbreak intruded yet again. On June 25, 2009, her brother Michael Jackson died of cardiac arrest, setting off a global outpouring of grief. LaToya was among the first family members to arrive at UCLA Medical Center, where Michael was pronounced dead. Acting as the informant, she signed the death certificate. Conrad Murray refused, and immediately noticed suspicious circumstances surrounding Michael's passing. She requested a second autopsy, pointing to weird medical paraphernalia in the rented house and over $2 million in cash and jewelry vanishing from the property. Soon, the coroner declared Michael's death a homicide. In her brother's memory, LaToya released Home on July 28, 2009, with proceeds benefiting AIDS Project Los Angeles, one of Michael's favored charities. The tragedy overshadowed her album release plans, which were understandably postponed. Following Michael's death, LaToya ramped up her involvement in various business ventures and TV appearances. She launched Dream Cream in 2010 with Alessandro International, a German cosmetics company, tapped Teddy Riley to helm the music division of her label called J-Tail Records, and then joined NBC's The Celebrity Apprentice in 2011, hoping to raise funds for her longtime charity, AIDS Project Los Angeles. She was fired from the show but returned in an apprentice first, only to be fired a second time, ironically making history as the first candidate to exit twice in the same season. She also popped up as a guest judge on RuPaul's Drag Race and America's Next Top Model, bridging her musical legacy with her new persona as a seasoned industry figure. In June 2011, she published her second memoir, Starting Over, under Simon & Schuster's Gallery Books imprint, simultaneously releasing a short EP of music by the same title. 2 years later, in 2013, she starred in Life with LaToya, an OWN network reality show, opening the door on her personal life, one that included speculation over a supposed engagement to her longtime business partner, Jeffrey Phillips. Rumors swirled that they might have married in Los Angeles in December 2013, but both denied it. On Oprah, Where Are They Now? Segment, they clarified that they'd canceled the engagement, but remained close. LaToya's philanthropic streak also flourished. She and Phillips executive produced Dancing in Jaffa, a documentary aimed at bridging cultural divides between Jewish and Palestinian children in Israel by teaching them ballroom dance. In 2016, she branched out yet again, collaborating with Iranian-American pop star Andy on a track titled Tehran, singing partly in Persian, a remarkable step for someone who once rarely ventured outside her comfort zone. By 2018, she was busy promoting Michael Jackson-themed projects, even visiting El Hormiguero in Spain to endorse Forever, the best show about the king of pop. That same year, she competed in a celebrity version of the Food Network's Worst Cooks in America, coached by Tyler Florence. In a surprise twist, she won the season finale, earning $25,000 for Race to Erase MS. Then, in early 2019, she appeared on The Masked Singer as the alien, revealing to everyone that the Jackson legacy continues to produce twists, even decades after the family's initial burst into stardom. By now, you might wonder if LaToya's story has settled into a stable, comfortable place, but according to recent rumors, her health is in decline. The full details remain private, but the gossip suggests that she faces ongoing physical challenges. Given the tumult of her past, it's not surprising that health complications might follow. After years of mental stress, domestic violence, financial upheavals, and heartbreaks, the toll on her body and spirit could be significant. Yet, throughout it all, LaToya has remained an emblem of resilience, a woman who made missteps and faced exploitation, but found ways to persevere. It's not easy to extricate yourself from an abusive marriage, especially one that separated you from loved ones for years on end. Nor is it easy to bounce back from the public scorn or skepticism that comes after sensational tabloid headlines. But consider how many times she started over, leaving the Jackson compound, escaping Jack Gordon, forging a renewed relationship with her siblings, forging her own place in reality TV, re-emerging in the music scene multiple times. Each phase says something about her willingness to keep going, to remain visible, and to make the best of the Jackson name while also forging an identity distinct from brother Michael and sister Janet. Even now, fans who meet her at events comment on her grace and politeness, traits that might be overshadowed by her past scandalous imagery and the shocking details of her personal life. Those who have read her memoir, Starting Over, or have watched Life with LaToya, often say they see a kinder, more vulnerable side than the tabloid headlines once portrayed. The ongoing question remains whether she truly ever got the recognition she yearned for artistically, or if the ghosts of her father's strict parenting and Gordon's manipulative abuse stunted her full potential. The heartbreak of losing Michael, whom she adored and felt so protective over after his passing, no doubt added another layer of sorrow. She's also spoken about how the entire Jackson clan wrestles with an enduring mix of love and conflict. For as public as they have been, the Jacksons are intensely private, keeping many raw emotions hidden. Historically, this entire saga intersects with American pop culture's broader story. The Jacksons emerged when Motown was revolutionizing mainstream acceptance of African American performers. Joe Jackson's unrelenting discipline turned them into a well-oiled performing machine. Michael's superstardom redefined pop music globally. Janet proved that the Jackson sisters could be chart-dominating phenomena in their own right. LaToya was the one who broke from the family brand most spectacularly, posing for Playboy, speaking publicly about abuse, fueling controversies about Michael, and marrying a man who nearly ruined her life. Each twist mirrors a shift in entertainment, the emergence of tabloids as major celebrity drivers, the sensational appetite for reality TV in the 2000s, the power and peril of brand identity in pop music. Her journey touches on feminism too, how a woman from a strict background can wrestle with the interplay of personal freedom, sexual expression, and exploitation, eventually fighting her way to a place of self-determination. Returning to the question that opened our story, what lies behind the facade of a famous show business family? In LaToya's case, it's a portrait of complexity. She was the quiet, shy child who dreamed of becoming a lawyer, then found her entire adult life shaped by intense paternal demands and the unstoppable inertia of the Jackson family brand. She tried to carve out her niche in pop music, but never quite escaped comparisons to her siblings. She was drawn into a manipulative marriage that led to a near decade of terror. She lost the ability to speak to her siblings and risked her own safety by eventually defying her abuser. She filed for bankruptcy to clear the damage inflicted in her name. She re-entered public life gingerly through reality TV, overcame phobias, wrote new music, and championed philanthropic causes. She expressed regrets, recanted harmful statements about her family, and has tried to maintain unity with siblings in the aftermath of Michael's death. It's a narrative that encapsulates both the glitz and the brutal underside of fame. Her place in the Jackson dynasty remains unique. Some see her as the rebellious sibling, others the vulnerable scapegoat. For better or worse, she stands as living proof that you can never truly predict how the cult of celebrity will shape a person. While older sister Rebby found contentment largely away from the limelight, and Janet soared to iconic status, LaToya's meandering path suggests that stardom, family ties, and the search for personal independence can be an uneasy combination. Perhaps in another timeline, she would have quietly become a lawyer and left the family's showbiz world behind. But the brand name Jackson exerts a strong gravitational force, one that has propelled her through controversies, heartbreaks, and repeated attempts at reinvention. Today, the rumor mill might whisper that her health is failing. If true, she deserves empathy and respect for the battles she's fought, seen and unseen. Time has shown her willingness to share her vulnerabilities, from the battered wife seeking refuge to the sister mourning a beloved brother. The last couple of decades highlight her determination to remain a presence in entertainment, even if only in cameo appearances or side ventures. She's done philanthropic work for causes like AIDS Project Los Angeles, Race to Erase MS, and bridging cultural divides among children through dance. Even her cameo on The Masked Singer, a show all about revelations, hints at her ongoing quest to be recognized on her own terms, free from the baggage of decades past. Thank you for journeying with us through the life and challenges of LaToya Jackson. If this story piqued your interest, there's plenty more to uncover about the Jackson family's multi-generational legacy. And who knows, perhaps LaToya's resilience, her capacity to start over time and time again, will offer a template of hope for anyone who's ever felt trapped by circumstances beyond their control. Stay tuned for our next deep dive, where we explore even more hidden corridors of entertainment history, re-examining the private lives of public figures to see what truths and cautionary tales lie behind the glitz and glamour. Because in Hollywood, as in the Jackson household, the real story often goes untold until someone is courageous or desperate enough to step forward and let the world see behind the veil. Keep watching, and let's discover the next chapter together.